You're locked in to Independent Grind on Dash Radio. Tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern for the latest hip-hop news, music, and interviews. Independent Grind only on Dash Radio, baby. Tech 9!
All right, we're on the phone with Gabriel Knows Everything. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. You're in the Florida area. What's the weather like down there?
It's getting hot, man, already.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to say, like, oh, it's been kind of cold or something.
Look,
but-
it's been
No,
raining at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there again.
Well, that's good. I'm happy for you.
I'm jealous.
Jealous?
You actually, I guess we'll get right into things. You actually have an album coming out tomorrow on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
I guess.
Thursday.
When this airs, it'll already been out for 2 days. But
True.
why Valentine's Day?
It just fits with like the theme of the record. Just really trying to explore like different aspects and motifs of love. You know, as cliche as that is, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say? We got to listen to a little bit of your music, but would you say that your music is always kind of in that realm, or is this something different for this album?
It's definitely this one. Like, even though it explores love, you know, it's like a lot of darker aspects of it, and it goes hand in hand. I was in a relationship, like at the time I wrote it, and like to me, it seemed like it was everything I wanted it to be. But obviously, you know, there were crap. We're not together right now.
Mm-hmm.
But there were stuff that showed in the lyrics I was writing, you know. And whenever we finally decided on the name for the album, everything just sort of made sense.
The name is Paradiso?
Paradiso.
Paradiso. Tell us the meaning behind that.
I don't know. I'm big into books and reading and stuff like that. It's I don't know if you heard of Dante's Inferno, the Divine Comedy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the last one. So I mean, obviously, me doing it like as a debut album is out of order, but it's just sort of supposed to represent that like surreal, like the deluding aspects of like heaven, I guess, you know, on a journey, like a journey's symbolism.
You said that you like went through some hard times with a girl or whatever, and that's kind of like your inspiration for this album. Is it easier to write during those times?
See, the crazy thing was whenever I wrote the majority of it, like we were together, and you know, we thought we were happy, you know,
Okay.
which is crazy, you know.
So is this a happier album?
It's like, I mean, there are happy moments. It's got more darker channels though, for sure.
Is it weird to like look back on it now that like, I don't know, like something like I think we were talking with another artist, like looking, or like I'll find a picture of an ex or something, and then you so this is almost like, I feel like the most extreme version of that. Like, is it weird at all to listen back on it?
Yeah, man, honestly it is. Like, I was talking to the producer for the album, Jimmy, about this. And one of the songs, the last one of the album, is pretty personal, but like it seemed like after we recorded it and, you know, gave us some time to mix and stuff like that, like it became its own story, you know. Like I can listen to the song and have nostalgia instead of just thinking about where I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's probably good for you mentally.
Yeah, it's, you know, it helps.
Tell me a little bit about Jimmy. I think it's interesting you went to sort of like the one producer, executive producer. Does that mean he produced every beat, or I guess what is that? What was Jimmy's hand in the?
He's basically like executive producer. He recorded, he mixed, and he mastered, and he produced everything.
Oh shit!
How did you guys link up? Like, how did that relationship form?
It's a crazy story. Like the first ever show I did, like 2.5 years ago, it was garbage. I mean, I was garbage. I did Love Lockdown and like a Fast Car cover or something like that, and then one original song. It was like sort of hip hop based. But he was there with another group, and he was like the producer, their live instrumentalist, or something like that. And like over time, we would just sort of work together. But then, like really, last February, we started to actually click and, you know, like make stuff that really reflected what we were trying to make.
Was it easy for you to kind of like give up maybe some of the roles of just you doing what you wanted to do and having his input?
Yeah, definitely. Because like he would add ideas on, you know, that I wouldn't even think of.
Right.
Is this the first time you've worked with one producer? Or I guess for you, what's the difference between sort of like a project where you work with one person exclusively versus like, you know, a few different producers? Is it easier for you, harder? What's that process like?
I guess it's easier, like logistically speaking, to do it just by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you're with a producer, I mean, who's like making the beat as you say the lyrics, everything seems a whole lot more organic.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have, I guess, quite a few projects out that you've released in the past. How is this one? Is this one like completely different for you? Are you have a different rollout for this one? What's different from this one?
Yeah, this one just feels bigger. Like all the songs, I've done a lot of these songs live in Orlando area. So there are a lot of people who come out of the shows, like they know the songs before they're even dropping. You know, this one, like I have a whole lot more confidence in this one than I did in past projects.
Did you grow up in Orlando?
I grew up in this small town, like a rural town, about an hour outside of Orlando called Lakeland.
Okay, I'm familiar with that. That's actually how I know Ryan is from Orlando.
Oh, okay.
So I'm somewhat familiar with the area.
You used to live in Orlando?
Yeah, I went to school down there for a few years. But
nice.
like, so you're doing were you making music in Lakeland, or when did you make the transition to Orlando?
Like in Lakeland, I grew up around music, so it was always sort of easy to just stay in touch with it. Like I had a little high school community service band, but I ended up going to UCF when I was 19, and that's when I started to actually like branch out and, like, you know, go to open mics and do shows and stuff with it.
Would you say that Orlando is like a influence on you doing your own stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I found myself in Orlando. You know, I was there for 3 years, and it's a pretty big city. It's not a huge city, but personally, you know, like what I wanted to do in life and what kind of person I was, I found in Orlando.
It's got a pretty decent scene for, I mean, what it is. You know, like you said, it's not like a Miami or anything, but I feel like there's enough opportunities in Orlando that, you know, if you want to be an artist tomorrow, like you definitely kind of know your spots and everything else like that there. Yeah,
definitely. It's really like it's a nice, like it hasn't always been like this, but right now there's a really cool community atmosphere with all the indie musicians, and you know, whenever it's like that, it feels like you're really building something.
Besides your producer and, you know, like your mix engineer and stuff, like, do you have somewhat of a team out there, or are you just kind of, you know, navigating yourself and, you know, your close friends?
No, yeah, definitely. Creatives Only. That's who I write with.
Okay.
I started with them like maybe a year and a half ago, and really like they were more based in Chicago, and they just came down and did a bunch of shows in the Florida area. And my manager at the time was working with them, so I just got on and did the shows, and we just clicked like immediately. It was crazy.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just saw sort of speaking to your team and stuff. I saw like it's funny actually. Your pinned tweet on Twitter. One of your things you had planned was like a streaming debut. Tell me what that process is like. Was that part of like, you know, your team doing that, or what's for other artists who are maybe like, you know, trying to get their stuff more streaming? How would you recommend going about that?
For me, it was more just like I'd been on SoundCloud for a while, and I felt like my music was ready to take that step, you know, to where I felt like I could represent myself with the music. I feel like some people put stuff on, you know, streaming platforms before they're ready for people to find, like, I don't know, like before people should find that stuff, you know, before they have every brand, like their brand right, you know, everything's structurally sound before they get the stuff out there. I ended up going through a distribution for DistroKid. I really like how DistroKid works with the cuts. Like you could do a cut straight off the sale instead of having to split the money after you get it.
I gotcha. I noticed that you had the project Gabriel Knows Everything on Spotify, is that different from everything that you have on SoundCloud, or were those just pieced together songs that you wanted to put on Spotify?
Those are basically like just the songs that got the most plays that were on SoundCloud,
Okay.
like the ones that got the most recognition while I was just on SoundCloud.
I got you. Is that weird for you to be on different platforms and to be like, hey, go to this or go to SoundCloud? Like, how do you treat all that? Or how are you going to treat it with this upcoming album?
With this one, like I definitely want to just direct people more to Spotify and iTunes. I mean, I'm going to have it up on SoundCloud eventually for sure, but I'm definitely, whenever I first dropped everything to Spotify, you know, everybody really supported it because I feel like that's a good step. That's a step every artist needs to, I mean, every musical artist needs to take. This one's definitely like, I'm going to be focused on getting on Spotify playlists, you know, really pushing the streaming platforms.
How are you going to go sort of about the playlist? Because I know sometimes it just sort of happens by chance, but I know there's also room to sort of like, you know, curate those relationships. How are you planning to sort of try to get your stuff on playlists?
Well, you just have to know, you know, it's about knowing the right people, just having connections and networking and stuff like that.
I want to go to like your sound and like your style. It's kind of more of like an R&B, maybe like a cross from like soul and hip hop and stuff. Like, does that stem from like what you grew up listening to, or was this kind of like a style that you figured out that you had and you know you were good at?
I don't know. My musical background is weird. My dad he's Palestinian, but he's from Saudi Arabia. So I didn't really have like any huge American, you know, you hear like stories from Post Malone about how his dad showed him like Led Zeppelin and Run, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, like, I never really had that. I remember whenever I was 13 or 14, I found the Black Eyed Peas and Green Day and stuff. Like, it was a very gradual progression. But I think a huge influence was I found The Weeknd in high school and Frank Ocean. And like those, you could tell like my early stuff was really influenced by them. But then I just, you know, as you find what you're good at, you end up going more towards your voice and your sound, you know. And then even though you have those influences in the beginning, you end up tending towards whatever you can do best or whatever you can bring to the table.
Would you say that like The Weeknd and Frank Ocean were like your first? Was that like the first time that you were like, okay, like I really like music and you know, really enjoy this shit?
Yeah, because it was. I'd always been. My mom taught me how to sing when I was little, so I could always sing. I always liked like singers and singing along to stuff. And that was the first time where you could really see, like, I mean, Drake, obviously like Drake, you know, but where the hip hop sound, 808s and Heartbreak was the second album I ever bought. Like where, you know, Frank Ocean and The Weeknd and those kind of styles were the first time you really see, it's like post R&B, you know, alternative R&B, where it's not just how you think it could be. It's almost like you can make anything with this, you know?
So I take it you're a 808s and Heartbreaks fan. I know that's like a polar. Like I'm a huge Kanye fan.
Yeah.
And that album is always so funny to me because people either love it or hate it, and I personally think it's like genius, and it's like actually one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So I guess you're on Team 808s.
Man, it was crazy. Whenever I first bought the album, it was a big deal to me because I didn't even have any hip hop in the family. It was gonna be like, oh, yo, Kanye, this is gonna be my first hip hop album. Like, oh, okay, like, all right. You know, I buy this shit and I buy it and it's all R&B and I'm like, what is this?
Back to where you started.
Yeah, I was mad. I was like, man, come on. And then I ended up, you know, it grew on me after a while. But that initial reaction was like, man.
Mm-hmm.
We actually just talked to artist Jameson, who is actually kind of like your style in a way. I mean, Jameson is very different, but you know, as far as kind of being across from, R&B and soul and, taking little pieces of hip hop and rap here and there.
Right.
He gets picked up by like a lot of hip hop and rap blogs, which is different because his music is nowhere near hip hop or rap, I would say. Have you experienced any of that, of like rappers taking interest in you or blogs or anything like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because whenever I'm doing live sets, mixing hip hop in is really good for live sets where you get that change pace. And, it's given me that platform where I could work with rappers and I could work with singers and R&B stuff,
Yeah, I think rappers naturally gravitate to like singers and stuff, like as like, oh wow, they're really talented,
Yeah, because I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like most rappers can sing a little bit to have that vocal delivery, but off rip, it's like that mindset with a singer. It's like, oh, he can do something, I can't do. Or whenever I see a rapper who's really dope, it's like, oh, he could do something I'm not great at. Let me see if I can work with him or pick up from him or something like that.
Have you been doing like any collabs or anything? Like, have you collabed with a rapper before?
Yeah, actually, there's a collab. One of the better rappers from Orlando. His name is Mav. It's going to be on this upcoming project, Paradiso.
Mav, like M-A-V?
Yeah, M-A-V-E, like a maverick.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Devin Moore out there?
Yeah, I am. I know Devin.
Yeah, whenever I was living out there, he was like the most talented guy out there to me. Like, cause he could sing, he could rap, he could produce, he could do it all.
Yeah, I really like his sound and the way he takes it, like how he mixes his vocals. Honestly, it's a really cool mix between, it's not too much rap and it's not too much R.
Kind of like in the middle of like pop and rap almost.
Yeah, it's a great mix.
Ryan informed me that you opened up for 12lin recently, who I guess kind of like more fits your style, and is actually, I believe, from Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's from Miami.
Okay, so how was that show, and how'd you get on that bill?
How to get the bill? TSA Showcase. They're the ones who put the show together. They just they had emailed me. I woke up one morning and I was like, man, like, I haven't had any shows in a minute. And then I wake up and I see the email. Oh, blessings, So they just emailed me. And, it was crazy. I sold a bunch of tickets, like a bunch of people, which was dope to me. It's crazy. Even though it was 12lin, the tickets are more expensive than usual tickets to go to a show. So many people came out. It felt important. It felt like a really important show.
Is your live show a lot different than your recorded music? Do you take steps to like make it different, or how's it sound compared to your recorded stuff?
I try to make it. Obviously, live, like, it's got to be its own experience. But I don't do backtracking vocals or anything like that. I do I'll leave harmonies in sometimes, but most of the time, like, I'll just go and do how the song is arranged, exactly how it's recorded, or sometimes, like, improvise depending on the song. But
I don't think artists enough like think about that. Like I don't think they think about, how this song was recorded versus how it's going to sound live. And like you said, like if you want to leave in harmonies, or maybe you're going to run out of breath in a certain spot, so you leave that in there. So that's cool that like about that, and obviously it makes for a better show.
Yeah, I was reading this magazine one time. It was a Pink Floyd magazine, and this, it was back in the 60s, but they were talking about how they were worried their recorded material didn't really resemble their live shows, because, like they said, for example, like the Beatles, if you hear them recorded and you hear the Beatles live, they sound the same. And it felt like that was authentic, and that's what I at least strive to do, that to a certain extent.
I feel like now it's the opposite. Is like now the studio track sounds way better than people do live.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah. I was just listening to I was watching some videos on your guys' Instagram, actually. Like I think it was a Rick Ross performance and it was a Future performance, and they were doing some of their vocals, but like they had a DJ for the hook and stuff like that. The show was still lit, the show was still crazy lit. I feel like, no, for real, like you see everybody going crazy in there. I feel like, I feel like it's really how you work the performance. I prefer to do mine without, I want to give it like a more of a show feel, like I'm performing the music live. But, it's just as well, to have a DJ and just have it lit, there's really no difference. It's just, I prefer to have the...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you know who you're performing for,
Right.
Future knows that everybody's going to know, Mask Off and stuff. So he's probably not, he's probably just going to drop the mic and be like, y'all can just rap this, which is, obviously probably plays into a great performance and everything.
Oh,
but being that you are in Orlando and you've done your fair share amount of shows, do you think that that's like a really big factor in like how you're growing your fan base and stuff? Because I know like nowadays it's more, let me get a little bit of buzz on the internet first before I kind of really take it locally and do a lot of shows and stuff. So do you think that like you doing shows and stuff has really propelled your, career or, helped you build a little bit faster?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely like there, I was talking to my Ryan about this last week whenever he took over for managing for me was, I think in the fall, and I'd only had a couple shows, but like with the kind of response we got for the 12-Lin show, we really weren't expecting, like that many people to want to come out to the show. And, it showed us that all the work, all the little shows I've been doing and the little, the little bars, little coffee shops and all the, people pay attention whenever you come around enough and you're consistent. And after a while, it creates that foundation. I know some artists who they're on Spotify heavy. They don't do that many shows. They have like 20,000 listeners on Spotify. But if they tried to sell tickets, they wouldn't be able to sell, 20 tickets.
Yeah. It's like a weird happy medium of like you choosing, what you want to do. I think a lot of people too like don't really want to do shows in the beginning.
Well, it's hard because like you're still learning who you are as an artist, and then to come like I feel like the show is like it's like a big risk reward kind of thing. Like if it goes bad, like people are gonna remember you for that, but like at the same time, there's that real chance to like like really connect with people.
The crazy whenever like I was talking about whenever our team came down from Chicago to Florida, we did we went balls to the wall. We set up like 4 to 5 shows in like 2 or 3 weeks. And we were just out in Tampa and Orlando like every weekend. And looking back on that experience, I mean, like my music back then nowhere near resembles what it is now. But just having that, it's basically like we went on a small little tour, right when we started. Like we could do that,
I think people don't really like understand the value of having like one fan that's going to be, even if you do just make one fan, like that's going to go a lot further than you think. And, especially down the road when you start doing merch and all this other shit is like, if that one fan is truly your fan, like they're going to support you and, do the little things to support you.
I actually went to a show last night and there was maybe like 10 people there, and like this band it was like kind of awkward because like no one wants to be like front and center. And then they like got up and they started killing it, and then everyone started moving closer and closer, and it's like, man, like even if it's a small crowd, like you have that chance. People were like buying merch after and stuff, and it's like you still have that chance to like win those small people over, which like totally matters, especially when you're like starting out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I went to I was at an Irish bar like 2 or 3 weeks ago for one of their open mics, and it was all pretty acoustic stuff, standard stuff like country. And then this reggae band comes on, and before this band came on, nobody in the building is standing up. I'm talking these guys had like face tats, dreads down on the floor, like they did not. This is an Irish bar; they play Irish music. But when I say like everybody in the bar was standing up, dancing to this reggae band, Irish bar, like it was crazy.
It's cooler for like like the fan too, because every show and every
Yeah.
artist that they'd probably normally go see is like you're never going to be that close to them. So you're in a
Yeah.
smaller place like that too. It kind of probably makes you more gravitated to them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I feel. Exactly how I feel about this band now. I was like, man, that was so sick. I just saw like my own performance of him. Like a huge fan now. You seem like a real big fan of music and just like sort of like the culture in general. And I see you're a writer. Are you still writing for Taste Creators?
I'm writing for Mew magazine mostly right now.
Okay, how do you even divide the time between like writing and doing your own music, and then also like, so how do you separate them and how do they overlap? Like, how does it help you?
If I'm being honest with you, I had a little bit of trouble recently trying to keep up with the music and the writing. And then I got back into it. I was able to refocus and make sure I got the stuff in on time. And it really, it really just comes to enjoying the writing, like actually instead of thinking, oh, this is just something I have to do. I actually, sitting down, like I'm going to make these 200, 300 words, something I want them to be.
Are you writing about music, or what are you writing about specifically?
For Mew, it's mostly song reviews or project reviews.
Okay.
Is that kind of like your day-to-day job?
No, I wish. I wish. I'm a substitute teacher right now.
Oh shit.
Okay, that's cool.
Shout out the writers.
Yeah,
I used to be a writer, so I know the feeling of like sitting down and being like, how the fuck am I going to get this done? and then, but I mean, it kind of works out sometimes. Like I feel like at the end of it, like if you're passionate about the music you're writing about, like all of a sudden you'll have like 700 words when you're supposed to have 300.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. If the song is good, it's like, oh, okay. The words just come for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone who you've written about recently that you like really love or like want to, we should check out?
Put us on game.
Yes. No, for real. There's this guy from Florida. I'm not completely sure where he's from. His name is Soft Glass. It's like, it's all one word. It's all one word, and Glass has one S. There's no two S's. Mm-hmm. But he is like, he's basically a composer. Like he does his drums, he does guitar, and he makes his own beats. And he'll have people sing on his songs, and he'll sing sometimes. But he really, like, his music is a really good blend of all the stuff I like. It's like he's dope. He's dope. That's all I gotta say.
We'll have to check him out.
Hold on, I want to have one more question. I know you're a substitute teacher. Do you like tell your kids that you're like also an artist? Like, do they know that side of you, or do they just think you're like kind of this button down teacher?
But I actually I long-term sub for this freshman English class, and some of them ended up, after I stopped subbing for them, they found my Instagram. And I got,
get them out of the show, start selling merch in class.
I'm saying, they actually like bumped the listens on one of my songs a whole bunch.
That's cool.
That's where the kids. If you can get the kids, you can win.
Yeah, game over.
For real, yeah.
All right, we got 3 random questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up.
All right.
You're going to the gas station. What are you gonna get?
Orange juice.
Orange juice. Okay. Any candy? Any chips? None of that.
Oh, I might get some Sour Patch Kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you formed a band and you weren't doing lead vocals, what instrument would you play?
Oh, guitar. Definitely guitar. I mean, I can't really... I could play a little bit of guitar, so it wouldn't be the best band. But
that's okay. These are all hypotheticals anyway.
Oh, okay.
Last one, a dream collab, whether it be like an artist, band, or producer.
Oh, God. What's it? Fleetwood Mac would be dope.
Fleetwood Mac. We haven't heard that one.
No.
Like, even
That's
now,
awesome.
Even in their old age, that would be crazy.
All right. Well, this is Gabriel Knows Everything. We really appreciate you coming on. Your album is out now.
In the future now.
By the time this airs,
Right.
dropped on Valentine's Day. Paradiso, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Paradiso.
Okay. Check it out on Spotify. Is it going to be out anywhere else, or is it just going to be Spotify?
Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, I think Tidal, Pandora, and I think that's it. YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube.
This is the genius, Chris Calico.
Cali, baby.
Letting you know you're tuned into Tech Nine's Independent Grind on Dash Radio. Ah!